All right, welcome into the Fit Parent Podcast. I am Jeff. I'm here with Amy.
Hello.
And we're going to be fairly tactical today, but it's going to be through the lens of my life, if everybody's cool with that. I'm
cool
literally
with it.
just going to tell you what I'm about to embark on and the why behind it, but then also what specifically I'm going to be doing. And I'm not prescribing this as the thing that you ought to necessarily do, but I'm going to give you the framework for which I'm going to be doing. So, I have in the past done some documented fat loss phases where I've done maybe 3 or 4 of them at this point, where I will do it on my social media, where every single day I'll post my weight, and every couple of weeks I'll post measurements, and I will kind of keep a diary of how a fat loss phase is going, particularly to show the ebbs and flows of the scale is one of the biggest kind of takeaways that a lot of people see within it, but also how I'm doing it and still not hating every moment of my life, to kind of get going with that. And so I haven't done one since it was the beginning of the year last year. I have not documented. I did one to like start the new year last year. I did a 6-week thing leading up to a trip that I did to Mexico with the mentorship that I do. And so I knew that I was going to plan to do one again this year because I think it's valuable for people to see. And also, I generally want to lean down at least once a year. I did one a couple years ago, like during the holiday season, just to like prove that you could. I wouldn't do that again because I was able to do it, but it was like, this isn't my favorite thing in the world.
Right.
And I've done longer ones. The first one that I did, I think, was maybe 12 weeks long. I've done shorter ones that are 6 weeks, 4 weeks. So I'm going to be starting one as I record this. It's February 3rd. I'm not 100% confident when this episode comes out. It's either going to be the end of this week or next week. So my plan is to start on Monday the 9th.
Okay.
And there's a couple of reasons why. Why not today, Jeff? And why am I getting started? Because my original plan was to start when I mapped out the year. Have I shown you my big ass calendar? Have I ever shown you?
No, but I love a big ass calendar. I just have like print out calendars because I'm not in my own house. So I just took January down yesterday. I felt really good. But also I had to put March up. I'm like, I shouldn't still freaking be living in this house in March.
Yes. So this is my second year with, it's literally called the big ass calendar is what it's called. And it's the whole year. So I'll pivot you so you can see it. If you're watching, you can see it, but it's the whole year.
Now, are those sticky notes?
Those are sticky notes that I've done for like different things.
Did you buy them that size, or did you trim existing sticky notes?
No, so they come with sticky notes.
Oh.
It comes with sticky notes in different colors, and it's a dry erase marker. It's like a dry erase thing, so you can erase on it. But it's the entire year on one thing. So each line is a month.
Goes in Amazon.
Cart immediately. I don't know if it's on Amazon, but it's its own. So the guy who actually made it is a guy named Jesse Minter. He's a billionaire.
You spent this much on a wall calendar?
It's for the whole year.
I spent.
How much is it saying it is?
$50.
I mean, how much is the calendar that you buy at Staples? Like $25?
Never bought one. I print them at work for free.
Yeah, okay, well that's different. Yeah, but like if you get one, but for me, it's more about like I can look at it and I know where. So I have everybody's significant birthdays. I have we had an intentional thing for this year of like we want to take more of these getaway trips, things, mini trips, and so I put like where are those going to go on there. When are the kids off from work, or like I need to be off from work? So there's a 5-day span in late March where we have our friends' kids over here and they homeschool their kids. So like they're here during this. So 3 of the days, those 3 kids are in our house with seemingly nothing to do. So I'm off those 3 days. And so there's going to be a lot of those things so I can look at it. It's also stuff for the business, like if I'm going to run a challenge or I'm going to run a launch or any of those types of things that I'm thinking about. And it gives me an opportunity to look at it. Significant dates that are like moments in the fitness industry to kind of think about. But it's also just easy for me to look at it and I can look big picture. And so when I had mapped it out at the end of last year, it was the week in between Christmas and New Year's. What is Jeff doing? Jeff is planning 2026. And so I'm laying out stuff for our lives, but then also stuff within my business. And it can ebb and flow and change as we go, but I want to be at least planned for it to the best of my ability. So because oftentimes what'll happen is I'll come up on something and be like, oh, Black Friday is a thing. And it'll be, the Tuesday before. And I'm like, at this point, it's too late. And so there's things like that I want to be something that I've talked about very briefly on my social media is like you can use your flex spending account to coach with me or your health savings account to coach with me. So there's a couple times a year where I want to make that announcement. One of them is like as the end of the year comes, hey, if you have a flex spending account, you have to spend it or you're going to lose it. So this is an opportunity if you've been thinking about it. But I also want to make the announcement during open enrollment for most companies, which is in September. So in August, I want to be like, hey, if you're thinking about this, you can save your tax bracket on coaching with me, whatever that is. Like, so if you're in the 22% tax bracket, you can save 22% by putting on a flex spending card. Like that's the easiest way to save money. And so there's things like that I don't want to be surprised by. I don't want to be planning something in my business during busy time for our family, that sort of thing. And so when I looked at it, one of the things that I planned to do was to do a fat loss phase and document it. And I was going to start it on March 2nd. So a month from today. It was a Monday and it was after February break. And oftentimes in March is when a lot of people do kind of a kickoff into thinking about summertime. It's like, hey, we got 12 weeks till summer, or it's usually a little bit longer than that because 12 weeks of summer is the end of March. So it's whatever. It's 16 weeks until summer on March 2nd. And so that's plenty of time for people to make headway. And for me, that's time for me to do it. And we have a stretch in mid-May where it's Mother's Day, my brother's birthday, my birthday. And this year we're going to visit some friends because I'm doing a speaking event that weekend. So there's a lot happening kind of mid-May. So I was like, I can just do it up until then. That'll be 10 weeks or so.
So you're doing a 10 week?
Well, so that was the original plan was I was going to start March 2nd. I was going to go 10 weeks and finish like Mother's Day, basically, was the original plan. And I was also going to navigate, we'll be gone sometime during that stretch in March. So I was like, this is how I do it on vacation. That sort of thing that I was going to do. All of that was involved, and that was my thought process on it. And I think that was valid in terms of my thinking. But I'm going to move it up. I'm going to move it up a month or so, 3 weeks to start it on the 9th. One is if I know I'm going to do this, waiting longer doesn't seem necessarily to make sense. And the reason that I want to do it is a couple reasons. One, feeling a little fluffier. I'll be honest with you. It's not dramatic. If you were to look at me, you would have been like whenever I post my before stuff, you're not going to look at it and be like, man, Jeff really let himself go. I don't think that that's the case at all. But I know for me, like I'll generally fluctuate 5 to 7 pounds, and on the low end of that is where I feel comfortable. And I'm on the there's like the leanest version of Jeff, which is, I'll just put numbers to it. I don't care. So I'm 5'10" and 5'10", somewhere between 5'10" and 5'11", depending on what time of day it is, basically. And so I'm probably sitting in the low 180s right now. And my leanest that I think I've really ever gotten to at the end of that 12-week cut, I think I was in 173 range. Like, that's about as lean as I feel comfortable getting. Now, I have a little bit less muscle than I did because that was probably 2.5 years ago. So maybe it's a little bit lower, but it was maybe 174 at that point. So that's about as lean as I would get. I usually feel comfortable walking around 175, 176. Like, that feels like it's a good level of lean, and I feel comfortable there. And again, for anybody who's like thinking about what their weight is relative to mine, like, everybody holds weight differently. So I have a friend who is almost my height, and we're relatively similar in terms of leanness, who's in the 150s, and you wouldn't look at me and be like, oh, Jeff's got a ton more muscle than him, upper body. It's just, I have a big butt, guys. I have a big old tuchus and legs, and that's because I lift a lot with my legs, and that's just kind of where I carry a lot of it. So that's just the nature of the beast. And so everybody holds weight differently, so let's not go specific into the numbers, but that's kind of where I'm at. And so I'm looking to lose somewhere in the realm of, call it 6 to 9 pounds.
Very reasonable.
6 to 10 pounds. And so that would take me somewhere in the realm of 6 to 10 weeks. And so I thought of, timing wise, I'm not going to put too hard a fast date, but like, I have a specific thing in mind where we are going to be going somewhere at least a little bit warmer. I'm not 100% sure where we're going to be going in the mid-March time frame. So that puts a nice simple thing on it where I can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. Not all, and I might not get all the way there, but get close to it prior to that trip, feeling probably around that range where I feel a little bit more comfortable. But why am I doing it? Feeling a little bit fluffier. Put on pants. Pants just fit a little bit tighter around the waist. Not super uncomfortable, but just to the point where, like, hard pants. Like, I wear sweatpants a lot, and then I have jeans that I wear regularly, and my jeans they got some, I have like whatever type of jeans, athletic cut jeans, and so they got some stretch to them, they got some give to them, and I wear those basically every day, these 2-3 pairs of jeans that I just rotate between. And so those things you can't tell, but when I put on hard pants, which I do on a date night or something like that, which we had over this last weekend, we had a date night, and a couple of weeks ago we had a date night, and I put these on, I'm like, yeah, it's just a little bit snugger than I might. And so that's my indicator of like, okay, we've started to go in that direction. But even more so is just, it's a comfort level with how I'm feeling walking around. But it's also something for me where I just notice as it starts to get to a certain part, I just get a little bit looser with my decision making with regards to food. And because I'm like, yeah, it's fine. It's fine. I'll say yes to things that I don't care all that much about. I'll like regularly be eating things that I'm like, that's not necessarily, it's not a bad choice or anything, but it's not something that I feel like totally dialed in on. And so it's also just a way for me to recalibrate myself back to normal. It's a little bit, if you ever do spend, like, you ever evaluate your spending or you look at your finances, and if you go too long without looking at your finances, you're like, how did we end up here?
Right.
And it's harder to get back. But if you're regularly looking at it, you can start to notice patterns. Like, we noticed it last year it was early fall when Megan was like super busy. And I think I said it on the podcast, like, we were doing more takeout than we normally do. And part of it was because it was like me solo with the kids and trying to navigate cooking a dinner for everybody. At some point, I was just like, I don't even want to try to cook a meal. Yeah. And then I get everybody to sleep and come downstairs and clean the house. And it was 8:30 and I'm like, I'm not cooking anything. So I'm like, just pick something up on the way back. And so we started to do that. And then we had that month, I think it was September. And I looked up and I was like, holy smokes, how much money did we spend on takeout? And it was very quickly, okay, we need to make a pivot. If we hadn't looked at it, it would have been very easy to go the entire thing and be like, how much did we spend on takeout this year? Like, that was nuts.
That's insane.
So it just gives me the opportunity. Like, I noticed that's happening. And so just wanting to kind of bring it back to the middle a little bit. Other things that are factors in for me wanting to do it in general, but wanting to move it up is, and these are, I touched on at the end of the last episode, but I would be a little bit remiss if I didn't, talk about it now since it's happened. So we put our dog down on Wednesday of last week. So it's 6 days ago now. And, it's impacted me more than maybe I anticipated it doing, even when we recorded this last week, which was before it happened. And I got emotional almost immediately in talking about it. The impact, and I know you get this.
I cried with Meg on Thursday, thinking about my own dog who we put down 2.5 years ago. It stays.
The thing about it is that I don't know if I anticipated was just the ever constant presence nature of dogs and of him, which was for a decade, longer than that for Megan, but for me, for a decade, every time I came home, he was there. Every time I came upstairs from work, he was there. Every time we went up to bed, he came with us. Every time I came downstairs, he followed me. It was so much embedded in the daily routine. And it's still, this morning I walked downstairs and I could have sworn I saw him pick his head up off his bed. Or I came upstairs after dropping the kids off yesterday, and normally he'd be there on the couch and he would pick his head up and I'd go sit next to him and I'd do my work for the first part of the day. And I'll be honest, the way that I do my schedule, in case anybody's curious, but this is a factor in what I'm talking about now. The way that I work my schedule is drop the kids off or help get the kids out the door and basically back at the house by 8:30 is usually when my work day starts. And from 8:30 until 10, barring something unforeseen, that is my like uninterrupted work time. And that's when I'm writing content or I'm doing systems or I'm working on stuff for whatever it is. Like I probably don't talk that whole time. I'm just on my computer, I'm working, I'm writing during that period of time. And then at 10, we start recording this at 10, or I might have a call with somebody who's on my team, like one of the people who works for me, or I might start a client call, or I'll do my check-ins on Mondays. I'll do my voice note check-ins start at 10. That's when kind of the outward facing part of my day begins, is at 10. But from 8:30 until 10, I always sat on the couch next to him. And he was my working buddy. And I've worked from home now for 6.5 years. It was the summer of 2019 when I started working from home. And in our old apartment in Newmarket, we made an office and we had a couch in the office that was behind my desk. And I would sit at my desk and he would sit on the couch behind me, or I would go sit on the couch next to him when I did this type of work. And then, but like in all of my client calls, he would be in the background. He just always wanted to be near us, near me. And Monday I didn't work because it was the snow day.
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday, the only thing I did for work was we recorded our podcast, and then the rest of the day was his last day with us. And so Megan and I spent time with him. And Wednesday was kind of when it went down and kind of us mourning him. Thursday I worked, but it was just consolidated all of the client calls that I hadn't done, but I still had that block of time, but I couldn't get myself up to do anything. And then Friday we were off because we had planned a while ago to go do an overnight in Portsmouth with some friends to do like a reflection on 2025, which was great, but we were off on Friday. And so then the last 3 working days where I would have had that time to sit on the couch and be next to him was Thursday, yesterday, and today. And I have been able to get nothing done during those times. And I'm not putting that on him or anything like that, but I've sat down and I've felt unsettled. I've been distracted. I've been emotional. So then I've been going into like, trying to do things that sort through those emotions. And so it's been difficult for me to even do something remotely for work that doesn't require me to interact with somebody. So that time where it's like, listen, if I don't do this, the only people impacted by this are me and the business and the family long term. This isn't client facing stuff. This is, I'm making content or I'm building back end things or whatever. And it's been hard to get myself to do those things. And right before I came down, and this is going to sound so trivial to so many of you, and so forgive me, but this is what's in my head, is that one of the things that I do, like for work, and it sounds so silly, but like putting content on social media is part of my job at this point. It's just part of the things that I've done, and I've done it for 4 years now, consistently. 5 days a week, most weeks. It's been, when I started posting, I had done 12 posts on social media, and I'm at 1,012 right now or something like that. And so it's been a lot of posting fairly consistently. And I've been thinking about, what do my posts look like? Because the last thing I posted was my kind of reflections and goodbye to Shiloh. And I'll tell you, the amount of times I cried writing that was,
I can imagine. Beautiful.
And even I've read it back a couple of times since then, and I cry every time. And I sobbed reading Megan's.
That woman.
And so I'm like, is the next post just like, eat more protein? That just it feels
disingenuous.
Or to pretend like it's not. And so I was like, but I kept on, I'm like, what does it look like? What does it look like? And I've also had a little bit of like a shift in what I want to do with my content at this point. Like, I want to do things slightly differently, particularly, and you're not going to get me to talk about the current climate of the world other than the fact that it's crazy.
Insane.
And social media, no, not that you would, but like you, the listener, the world, as well. Right. Like, and I see a lot of people who are in my space diving into that, and they're welcome to do that. Not my thing to do. It's just not where I want to go. But there is so much on social media right now talking about all these things. And I think a lot of people are on social media, and social media can be in general, it's not a great space overall. I think there's benefits to it, but particularly right now, you can open it up and be like, dude, this is a dumpster fire, like more than usual. Like, this is a cluster. And I am trying to figure out what my place in that is, and how to be useful if I'm going to continue to be present there. And so that adds to it, where I was already going to be making a fairly significant shift in the way that I do content, and I hadn't totally figured out what that looked like. And so there was already some uncertainty with how I was going to do content. Added to it the fact that I'm out of a rhythm and I don't really know how to come back. So I recorded it right before I came down here, and I did one take. I was like, I'm just going to record what I'm thinking. And I basically said, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to be here and I'm just going to say, I'm going to take imperfect action because that's what I'm going to do, and just try to move forward in some way, shape, or form. And that's what I did. And I haven't posted it, but it's like, I'll post it. That's my post for today. It's just going to be like, I'm going to take imperfect action and just keep swimming. And to move, because right now I feel unsettled and kind of stuck, and it's been difficult for me to get myself going to do anything. And so when I think we feel stuck, and this is, I'm gonna use myself as an observation and maybe generalize, so forgive me if I do this, but and it doesn't apply to people, but something I've realized in over the last probably 18 months since I've started coaching coaches is, and I've said this on here before, human behavior is human behavior. And I have the same conversations with my fitness clients as I have with my coaching clients, as I have with my children, as I have with my wife, as I have with myself in therapy. Like, it is the same thing. And I will,
the delivery and tone might be different,
but I notice the same things. Patterns are patterns, and they show up over and over and over again. And I'll be in therapy and I'll be like, yeah, okay, that's me. That's me too. And I know intellectual, but I'm like, how do we do, and so there's so many of these instances where human behavior is human behavior. And so forgive me if I'm generalizing, but I think I am a relatively observant person when it comes to this. And again, there are 50 people, not counting the people who come and see me in person, which 50 people who see me online every single week and communicate with me that I'm in charge of. More than that if you go outside into the group that I'm in charge of, and then more the in-person group. So call it 100 people for whom I am taking care of either their business or their health or both, plus my children and myself. And I spend a lot of time talking to people about what's going on in their lives, more than the average bear, I would say. And so I've made some observations, and one of the things that I have found is when we are in a rut or when we feel stuck, one, what you focus on is what you feed. So if I keep focusing on the thing that I'm stuck on, like, I'm just going to perpetuate that. The other thing that's hard is, in the moment that we're in a rut and stuck, it feels impossible to just get ourselves out of it. Like, the amount of effort it took, and this is going to sound so silly, the amount of effort it took for me to record that 90-second video was alarming for somebody who can, generally speaking, do 5 posts in an hour and can talk to people all day about fitness and health and has no shortage of stories and things to do. The amount of effort it took me to get off of the couch where I would normally sit with him next to me and go sit in a chair that's 14 feet away, take out my phone and hit record, was alarming to me. It was alarming how difficult it was. And so the idea that just that is going to be enough, that tomorrow I'm going to get right back on the horse and I'm going to be able to sit down and do a week's worth of posts, is, I think, a little silly. Or that my rhythm is going to be dramatically shifted by those small changes. I think that there's going to be enough difficulties and enough challenges with this. And I think the tail on losing Shiloh is going to be long enough that momentum is going to go in that direction unless I do something different to try to have something else to focus on rather than to focus on the absence or the void that we now have in our lives. Because that's what I'm focusing on. You know, Charlotte today was sitting on the couch and having her breakfast, and Levi was at the counter and was like, Charlie, come look at this. And she goes, I can't leave my food on the couch because Shiloh will come get it. And then Levi goes, no, he died. And because in the way that only a 5-year-old can, you know?
Yeah.
Or yesterday, because Megan has cried at least every single day. And I have cried almost every single day. Before and after, right? Like Megan's like, why are my eyes hurting? I'm like, you might not have any tears left, girl. Like you might be tapped out. Like you have not, like never have you cried in this way. And never have I grieved in this way. Grief for this is so different than a grandparent or anything that I've experienced because you just don't see them every day. And even the dogs that I've had in the past, like my mom, like my early childhood dog, I was 8 years old when he died. And then the one that we had for most of the latter part of my childhood, I was off at college or maybe even into adulthood when he died. And so I wasn't there every day. I didn't have that felt like I made the kids lunches on Monday for the first time. And normally he would be there by my feet and I would give him the crust off the sandwiches and
every
he's
time.
not. And I threw the sandwich crust and it's like, that's another moment. And so there's so much of this. And so Levi yesterday was like, you know, I forget exactly how she wrote it down. It was like something to the extent of like, I'm proud of you for not, you know, crying today or like to something like that about Shiloh, meaning it to be encouraging, like good for you for like being like, are you still sad? And she said, yeah, I am. And she asked, are you sad? And he's like, I am too. Like, you know, I think that it's just this fundamental shift in our lives that I'm not going to just will myself back to normal. I think that's the thing.
It takes time.
And it does take time. But this is the thing that I've noticed is the it takes time thing is 100% true. But I can't do the thing where I wait to heal in order to do the things that I need to do in the meantime. Because even if, let's say that in a month from now, I feel good enough to do what I've been doing, there's now a tail on the fact that I haven't done what I need to do for a month. And I'm out of rhythm for that. And my momentum is in that direction. So it's not like all of a sudden I start then exactly where I left off. And so now I'm feeling all of the feels for the fact that I'm not where I wanted to be. And so if the challenge for me is doing things like work, I'm going to I'll try some things like maybe I go work in a different location for that hour and a half. Maybe I go to the library or to a coffee shop or something like that. I don't know if that's going to do it or not, or if I just need to at some point be okay with the fact that he's not there and just steer into it. I don't know. But I do know that I don't know if I can fix my struggle with work through work systems immediately when it is a fundamental shift in our lives. I'm going to do something else, focus on something that's almost separate from the moment where the tension is, and focus on hey, I'm going to do this fat loss phase and it gives me something to focus on that is outside of that moment, outside of that time. And also there's to some degree, it helps with the content creation because I know that there's at least some underlying theme to what it is that I'm talking about right now. And so that gives me something to focus on. We also hi Dougie.
She's been very I don't know if she can feel the energy, but she has come over here.
She can definitely sense it.
She's
they're
she's
so
sniffing the computer.
Yeah, you can feel my pain through the camera here.
It's what are you doing?
I could tell that you were a little distracted.
Because she keeps nudging my hand to pet her,
wanting to get a pet. Yeah.
And, I'm in an armchair, by the way, so she climbs up onto the armchair.
She wants to be inserted into it. Yeah.
Like my podcast. I promised her we would go in the WOODS. So I think she's like, you said the word.
That.
Yeah.
So I think that there's something to the idea of I want to change something, and something not totally dramatic, but enough to kind of jostle me out of where I'm at right now. And so that's part of why I'm moving it up right now.
Completely within your control. Like when you work with your business partners, when you work with your clients, it's in their control and you're just guiding them. Your children are never in control. It doesn't matter. You can pretend they are. They're not. They're the ones making the rules. But this is very much a small thing that you are in 100% control of.
Yeah. And it's also not something that I'm doing out of a response to it. I'm just moving it up a little bit. It was planned to start 3 weeks later. Now, the question is, why did I not start it yesterday or today? Some of this is you want to have some preparation to it. And some of it is just full disclosure. We have a few things happening this weekend. Not that I want to let it rip, but you want to set yourself up for some level of success to start. And when I don't have an urgent timeline on it, it was something that I was like, you know what? I'm going to just start on that date, and it gives me the time to make sure that I'm set up for success. The other piece of it is Megan wants to do something with her nutrition as well, but we're trying to figure out exactly what that looks like. And so that's part of what we're doing this week is kind of figuring out hey, let's get on the same page from a game plan
together.
Yeah, it won't be exactly the same because her goals are different than mine. Mine are more fat loss related. Hers are more kind of how her gut health is. But they are certainly they can coexist, and they have a lot of overlap. And so we just want to figure out what we're going to do in those different areas to feel like we have clarity going into it, have a plan. Like I've talked about, a lot of the stuff is, hey, let's have a plan. And it's not as if I'm going to start next week in a dramatically worse place than I would this week. I'm not going to go on a bender this week to do that. So that's kind of why. And so then in terms of execution, what is it that I'm going to do differently? And so this is the other thing that I've talked about, and this will be probably the next podcast episode we talk about, but I'm going to give a very high level version of it right now. So the guy who owns the Online Trainer Mentorship, I think I've talked about him. His name is Jonathan Goodman. He's an author. He's written a bunch of books. He's got 2 mainstream books out. One of them is called The Obvious Choice, and his other one came out last week I forget which day. It was early last week. It's a new book called Unhinged Habits. If you want to check it out, you can go buy it on Amazon. He's an incredible author, and I have nibbled on the book. I have not fully immersed in it, but I've talked with him quite a bit about the book and the intention of the book. And so to sum it up in one sentence, this is how he thinks about it. And we will kind of flesh out this idea more in the next episode, because I think it will be related to what we're talking about, which is a lot of people think that consistency is the game, the entire game when it comes to success. And I've preached consistency on here all the time. And so that's 100% accurate. But he says also real growth happens during periods of intensity flanked by seasons of consistency.
I feel like you've said this before. That sounds familiar.
And so I will flesh it out more on another episode. But the idea of create consistency first, flanked by means it's on both sides. Create consistency first and then dial it up for a period to make it a little bit more intense for a fixed period of time. And then you can come back to consistency. This is what I've tried to show with the fat loss phases that I've done, which is like, hey, I have a normal way of doing things. I'm going to be slightly more intense about it, or dramatically more intense, depending on the length of time I'm going to do it. When I did 12 weeks, it was less intense. When I did 4 weeks, it was more intense.
Very intense, yeah.
So the intensity is determined by the goal divided by the timeline. And so whatever the goal is divided by the timeline, that determines the intensity that I need to go at. But I have also what consistency looks like on the other side of it. And so what am I going to be doing for these next 6 to 8 weeks? And I don't know exactly what the time frame was, because for me, I care a little bit less about how long I can do this for, because I know I can do it for 6 or 8 weeks.
Yeah.
6 or 8 weeks isn't dramatically different for me. It's more about when am I going to feel good about where I've landed. But it'll probably be somewhere in the mid to late March, very early April would be when I would stop, would be my guess. When I look at that, I'm just going to slightly dial up the intensity. Is that on your end or on my end?
Yeah, downstairs. My mother-in-law's here.
That's fine. I just wasn't sure. I was like, he's making it.
For a while, my thing was highlighted purple because Callie was breathing so loud next to me. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Girly.
Panting dog.
Loud panting. When I'm going to just be ratcheting up intensity. And so again, part of the thing that, if you're looking at what is it that I eat on a normal basis, I basically eat the same breakfast every single day. I basically eat the same lunch.
Oatmeal, blueberries, and eggs.
Yeah, oatmeal with cinnamon, frozen blueberries, and then eggs with some hot sauce on it. Eggs/egg whites scrambled together and some hot sauce on it. I eat basically the same thing. That's not going to really change. Same thing for lunch. I'll have my chicken fajita wrap most days. I'll have leftovers a couple days. That'll be the deal. I'll have shakes in the morning, shakes in the afternoon. Super simple. Now, what slightly shifts is that what has been one of my snacks, either morning or afternoon, instead of being a second shake, has been a waffle with peanut butter, or maybe a bagel or something like that. Something a little bit more, just a little bit more carb heavy, whatever it is. And nothing inherently wrong with it. It's just more calories and not as filling. So that's been that. Dinners are going to be family dinners. It'll be a protein, a carb, and a veggie. And we rotate through those. It'll be chili and steak, and I'll make chicken noodle soup, homemade chicken noodle soup, and I'll make,
Delicious.
Pot roast, and I'll make, all of these things. And you can check out, if you want to, my menu guide or my meal guide. It's on my website, or you can send me a email or a DM that just says meal guide or something like that. I'll send it to you. It's not anything crazy, because I'm not a crazy chef or anything like that, but you can see a lot of the meals that I tend to make fairly regularly. I didn't put even some of them in there that I usually do. Turkey burgers, things like that, I didn't put in there. Maybe I'll make a new version of it at some point. And then the other thing that would happen, though, is I would oftentimes have an evening snack after putting the kids to bed, and that would vary. That would be a dessert, or it would be fruit, or it'd be a margarita, or it would be, if I didn't have one earlier, it would be the waffle, or it would be a bagel, or it would be, whatever it is it's kicking around would be the evening thing. And so the biggest places where I will make shifts in the regular routine is going to be with the afternoon and the evening snacks. And again, I'm not going to remove them. I'm just going to change them. So the snacks will just stay consistent with the protein shakes. The evening snack will likely transition more to a fruit or something like that, though I will occasionally have myself a margarita or some Halo Top ice cream or something like that, something that's, a few hundred calories on occasion. The other thing that's going to change from a nutrition perspective is just the number of times I say yes in a week. And we've talked about yes meals all the time. And so right now I might have something that's more treat related 3, 4, 5 times in a week. And I'll just bring that down to like 2. It's that simple. It'll be whatever. It's pizza night with the kids, or it'll be a date night with Megan. But on a date night with Megan, I'm not going to have 2 margaritas, an appetizer, and a dessert, which is oftentimes what has happened. It'll be something like I'll have 1 of those things, or I'll have 2 of them and I won't do pizza earlier in the week, something like that. And so that's going to be the shift that I'm going to make on the nutrition side of things. It's not dramatic, but with consistency with that level of intensity, that's kind of where it'll be. The other thing that is going to shift is because it's been so cold and miserable with the snow and everything like that, my steps have been significantly lower because I haven't wanted to go outside. And so I've just been on the lower end. I've been doing probably closer to 8,000 steps a day, some days at 7, some days at 9, but closer to 8,000 steps a day versus the between 9 and 10 that I typically would do, because I'm not going for a 20-minute walk around the circle during my lunch break.
You would have died of hypothermia if you did.
Yeah, it's just not my jam anymore right now when it's cold. But I'm going to find a way to do that. That's when I'm going to be on my walking pad more.
Yeah.
I'm going to do pacing around my house, which I'll do. I just have gotten out of the rhythm of, or I'll bundle up and go outside. Like we have layers, even though I hate the cold. And anybody who tries to convince me like it's better for it to be cold than hot because you can put on more layers. It's like, I don't want to, Susan. I just don't. I would rather be dripping in sweat than be cold at all. Like, I live in the wrong part of the world, but
you really do.
That's where it is. So listen, if I can move.
I went cross-country skiing on Saturday when it was high temperature. This was up in Gorham, New Hampshire. Yeah. So high temperature was 4. We were out there cross-country skiing, had a ball because you never, because it's that cold, you don't get hot enough to start sweating. But
you're working hard.
Yeah, but you're like, okay, my body's finally warm enough. But a friend of mine, she's like, my cold went away after being outside. And she's like, there's got to be something to it. So I guess she looked it up yesterday, and like heavy exertion in that type of temperature raises your body temperature enough that your body starts producing more white blood cells, which then like, if you happen to be sick, you like get better quicker. I was like,
well, okay. It's also the logic of, have you ever like exercised when you have a cold?
Yeah, and I find it helps. I'm sluggish during it, but
yeah, for sure. Like you're not getting a great workout in, but you tend to feel better. And so that's if you're sick is above your head, above your neck rather.
Yeah.
And you're not going to a public gym where you're going to get other people sick, like do some level of exercise and you'll likely feel better.
It's helpful.
Particularly if you can go outside, and if you're outside the cold, it adds to the bonus because your body has to internally warm up more. That's why it happens, is because your body has to internally warm up more because it can't get warm enough from the exterior temperature. And so that's kind of why it ends up happening. But you can do it even just getting your blood temperature or your body temperature up by working out. But yeah, the idea of walking was not necessarily it. Now, I will say this. My workouts have been a lot more consistent since I've started the 4:30 in the morning thing. Don't love it, but they've been a lot more consistent.
Yeah.
Now, has it been, I've gone how many weeks are we into the year right now? 4 full weeks. Yeah. Yeah. It's been the longest year.
God, January is
a long time. The idea is 4 weeks in. Have I done 13, 14 workouts? No, but I've done 11, something like that. 10, 11. And so I'm like, cool. If I can keep consistent, getting 80 to 90% of my workouts in, I'm going to get a minimum of 9,000 steps a day, even if I have to pace after the kids go to bed. And I make those changes with my nutrition. I know after having done this for as long as I have, that in 6 weeks, that'll make the difference. That's really the game. Now, what'll likely happen is I'll probably try to push to higher, closer to 10 or more 1,000 steps a day. It's a little bit harder, but I'll try to do that, and that'll be it. And I'll be maybe a little bit tighter in the opportunities that I can with my nutrition. And I might try to push a little bit harder in the workouts, not dramatically more, but it's not like I'm going to do more. I'm not going to add a 4th day. One of the things I want to do this year is I want to do a little bit more cardio. like steady state cardio. It's one of the things I've been wanting to do for a while. And I know when I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it on Tuesdays and Thursdays in the mornings for 30 minutes. I'll just get to the gym a little bit earlier before I teach my class. I'll do it at 6:30, or I'll get something here. I'll get an assault bike here and do it here. But I'm not going to do that now because I'm not going to pursue two things at the same time. I'm going to pursue one thing at one time. And then I will have something else to pursue at the same time. Speaking of what we were talking about before we hit record with your contractor, like, why did he get buried? It's because he was trying to do too many things at once, and he couldn't keep all the balls in the air. So I'm going to have this be the main focus. It's the same thing with my business. Is like, hey, I just got to get back to first thing I have to do before I focus on the next thing in my business. I have to get back to a base level of consistency. So that is what I'm going to be attempting to do, is like, hey, I got to get back to a base level of consistency with my business before I'm starting to think about what's the next thing. Because I have on my thing over here, you probably saw it as I turned to the side, I have my Q1 rocks, things that I want to be working on and accomplish during the first quarter of this year. They're there and they're always there, things that I'm focusing on. Those things now take a back burner until I've gotten level to a consistency level of doing the baseline things that I have to do. That's the same thing that's going to be happening with my fitness, is I'm in my nutrition and all of this kinds of things. Is that has stayed consistent. The things that have lowered in their consistency, which has been the focus on snacks and yes meals and the amount of steps that I've taken, those have dropped. I'm going to bring those back up and then raise them to a new level of consistency. And that's going to be, but I'm going to maintain the consistency on the other things that I've been doing. But that becomes a lot easier for me, because if you think about, what is Jeff focusing on for the next 6 weeks? It's consistency with my snacks, planning my yeses, and walking more. Those are the only 3 things that I need to do differently. Everything else basically stays the same. That becomes reasonable for me to do that. If I had not consistency with my other meals, or I wasn't consistently working out, this would be a bigger lift. So all of the things that we talked about earlier a while back of like, hey, can I get back to some level of consistency with my working out? The struggle to figure out how to do my workouts for the months and figuring that out is what has allowed me to be like, yeah, in 6 weeks, I can make this happen, because I'm not trying to also get consistent with my workouts in the middle of trying to do all this. So first, find that level of consistency where it's only a slight intensity raiser, and I am walking every day. Like, I'm getting 8,000 steps a day, and I'm gonna try to get 9,000 steps a day or 10,000 steps a day. Like, it's a slight intense. I'm not getting 3 and trying to get to 10. I'm not having 7 yes meals a week and trying to get down to 2. I'm having 2, 3, 4, 5 maybe on occasion. It's just like, okay, I'll just have a dessert. I'll split a dessert with Megan and have a drink and not have pizza with the kids, and then just say no to other things throughout the week. That's not a huge lift on my life as much as it would be if I was like, hey, 4 times a week I'm having dessert after bedtime. That's too much of a lift. So we have to figure out what is a reasonable next step. And goals are, for me, primary goal is actually not the aesthetics piece of it, where it actually would have been that had I started in March and things hadn't shifted. It is to have something else to focus on, and to kind of recalibrate what life looks like, and for Megan and I to be able to do something together and kind of be united in something in the midst of the change of our lives. So we don't need, this is what I think where I'll finish, because I got to be really strict on my time here. I think so many times I talk to people and people will dismiss their motivation for starting as not good enough, or that it feels shallow, or whatever it is. Particularly if somebody has an aesthetic goal, they're like, I know it's shallow, but I just want to feel good in my clothes. And I'm like, why you start does not matter. Like, it matters to you, but there's not a good or bad reason to start.
Right. No one's judging you.
Nobody's judging it. Like, whatever gets you started. You could get started out of hatred for somebody else. You could get started with the revenge body. You could get, I don't care what gets you started. It's like, what gets you started is not likely going to be the thing that keeps you going. So take the motivation that's there, take the driver that's there, and let that spur any action, and then let action feed further action. And be okay with the fact that it will shift as you go through it, because in 3 weeks, the goal likely, hopefully, shifts. And it's not just for me to be distracted from the fact that my dog's not here. Maybe it's still there. I don't know. But I'm not, if that's all that is going to be the thing that motivates me, then at some point, maybe I get okay and I'm no longer motivated. So we have to have a different lens on this that's going there. So that's the plan. You can follow along on my Instagram or my Facebook and shoot me questions as you have them. I will likely do probably a Q&A podcast in the midst of this at some point. I'll put questions and answers up, and I'll answer them on the podcast as we get going. But appreciate you listening. This has been the Fit Parent Podcast. Do all the things that you do. Appreciate you listening. We'll talk to you soon.